D's win the AFL Premiership.
The D's win the Grand Final.
And the Demons beat the Bulldogs in the AFL Grand Final. This is the DrewFooty Show. The final one.
Nice.
Hey, long road, took a tumble down this black hole. Stuck in Sunday league, but I'm
Hello,
on levels with
welcome
Ronaldo.
back to the DrewFooty Show, the last edition, episode 29.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, mate, it's been a long slog. Not even gonna ask people to go follow the DrewFooty Instagram this week because you should be on. I think we've got about 400 to 500 followers now. So thanks to everyone who's followed that along the way. Kings, the bloke of the week for the last edition of the DrewFooty Show. Second time being bloke of the week. It's the backyard Charizard. If you do recall, he had all those tattoos on his chest, the Melbourne logo tattoos. He was in Perth this week to watch his Melbourne D's play in the Grand Final, which they won, obviously. So one of the best days of his life, I'm sure. And he rocked up, Jesse, in style. See photo here of him in a red and blue suit, in a top hat, just killing Perth.
It's one of those things where everyone else suddenly felt underdressed.
Yes.
Like, I'm just wearing a beanie and a scarf. What a loser.
It was lucky he didn't go to Metros on Saturday night, otherwise...
We don't know that.
Yeah, true. But if he was there, no man would have been pulling because he would have had a gravitational pull of women to him because he's a sexy man.
A gaggle, if you will.
A gaggle of... Yeah, great man. We had dinner with him on Friday night and he paid. So what a great guy.
Bloke of the week.
You are the bloke of the week. Good job, Jason. We love you. I suppose we better talk about the game that happened on the weekend, Jesse. Manchester United. Just kidding. No one cares
How
about
did
the
that
Premier
game
League.
go?
Oh, yeah, sick, bro. Real good. We're talking about the Grand Final at Optus Stadium on Saturday. I was in attendance. And before we get into the game, Jesse, it was an absolute spectacle. Optus being such a modern stadium with all the lights and whatnot, it just made it a Grand Final like no other. If you look at the AFL like as a show for just the general consumer, people that aren't footy diehards that watch most games like me and you, this caught the eye of a lot more people, I feel. Pretty sure it was like the 5th most viewed Grand Final of all time, the biggest attendance at Optus ever. And yeah, absolute spectacle, mate. Very, very cool. And Optus and Perth just did well to finish the season on a high, really. But anyway, we'll get into the game. Leading up to it, I said the D's by 30. You tipped the D's by what, like 15?
17, I think. Yeah.
Some around that.
I got Petrarca first goal though.
Yes.
And I claimed in for North. Did I? Norm, sorry.
I think you did.
I think I did. I said Petrarca with 3 and Norm and first goal is what I bet on. So I got
You
close.
are the Wizard of the Week.
Abracadabra. Leave that out.
So speaking of that Petrarca first goal, he had so much to do in that first goal. The ball sort of dropped to his feet. He wibbles around off a step from 50 and it just sails through. And you could just see he was ready for the biggest game of his life. He elevated to a level we haven't seen before. Broke the record. Some people were saying he got 40 disposals, but the app that I have said 39. So he rather tied or broke the record for most disposals in a grand final.
What happened with that is that he broke the record on the broadcast. They said he's hit 40. Then there was an Instagram post saying 40. But what they do after the game is they go back and look at all the kicks and see if they were real kicks. So I think they look back at a disposal of his and maybe it was smothered or something like that. So they corrected it from 40 to 39, and now he equaled the record.
Equaled the record, 2 goals. One of the best grand final performances I've ever seen. He was
Definitely
unreal. We'll get onto that. Fritsch got the second. Ed Langdon running down the wing. They just moved the ball so cleanly all day. Like, the chains were just...
2 chains.
2 chains, 3 chains, 4 chains, even 5.
Chain smokers.
At times. Rourke Smith got the only off the first quarter for the Bulldogs. And I think you could see the Bulldogs are cracking under the pressure, not just from Melbourne's just forward pressure in their forward 50, but also just the big stage. I think the Charlie Spargo goal came from an unforced error, and then Fritsch got another one where I think it was Bailey Williams maybe dropped the mark as well. So the pressure got to the Bulldogs in the first quarter. Is that how you sort of saw it?
Yeah, definitely. In that Melbourne were getting a lot more clean possession. It was pretty frenetic. Like both teams weren't like completely clean, but there was obviously a big gap between Melbourne and the Bulldogs in that first term.
It took until the second quarter for the Dogs to get into the game, Jesse, and Adam Treloar had the best quarter of his game in this quarter. He kicked 2 in the first 5 minutes, just front and centre in front of the pack. And yeah, when the ball was at ground, the Dogs were dangerous at times in this game. Then Norton got a goal and it was just about level. Bont had 2 massive pack marks right in the same spot. and kicked 2 set shots, and it was game on from there, and it just swung very quickly.
Answer me this. You were at the game, obviously. How were the roars of each team compared to the other? Like, when the Bulldogs got on top, was it just as loud as when Melbourne got on top?
Well, I was in the Melbourne end.
Right,
So,
okay.
the Melbourne goals were a lot louder. But you could, as each team was kicking, like, consecutive goals, they were just getting louder and louder and louder.
Yeah.
It just looked like the game was going down to the wire. It looked like the Ds were sort of flat. And especially after the first half of the third quarter, they couldn't get the ball out of their back half. They kept just going long down the line. Bont had a snap from 45 that was just unbelievable. Like, that just flew through the goal. He probably kicked that ball 65, 70 metres. Landed behind me, and I was in row 18. So, massive kick. Johannesson took a specky on the line. That was one of my favourite moments of the grand final, because where I was sitting, you couldn't really see, like, the goal line, and then you just see Johannesson just pop up. Like, it was,
You got that on
awesome
footage,
moment.
didn't you?
I did. So
Yeah,
go
check
watch
that
my
out.
vlog if you haven't already. But at that point, I thought the Bont was going to be best on ground. Something about the grand final and the big stage that makes players like Bontempelli and Petrarca just elevate to this new level of, I don't even know, like Super Saiyan God level of football. What did you make of the Bont's performance, even though he lost?
Well, really, really good when they were going well. One thing I did notice was, and I don't know if I'm being a little bit harsh, and he played so well, but when Melbourne got that run on in the third term where they started going nuts, it was just a single shot of Bont and his head goes down. And at that point, it's so important, body language, and he's the captain, and it just, you could just see the body language across the Dogs generally was down, and it just looked in that moment like he probably made a mistake in dropping his head, and I was a little bit critical about that. But 3 goals, 25 possessions, he's a joy to watch. He's generally one of my favourite players.
Who else from the Bulldogs impressed you? Trelaw, Bont, was that about it? Caleb Daniel had a massive first half as well.
Yes, I think you've nailed it with those 3. Caleb Daniel in the first half with 26, he was really good. We were considering who was around the mark for the norm sort of in that third term, and I think Daniel probably did have a fair few, like, cheapies, in addition to a lot of good disposals as well. But you compare that to someone like a Petrarca, and it was like every touch was gold.
Yeah, that's enough about the Bulldogs anyway, because they went home here, and for the rest of the game, it was all Melbourne, literally. They kicked their first goal of the third quarter with 9 minutes left. So after that point, it was 16 goals 4, 100 to 1 goal 1, 7. Like, you can say, I don't know if anyone has been saying this, that it's like a boring grand final because it wasn't much of a contest in the end, but that third quarter, that 10 minutes in particular, was the best 10 minutes of football I've ever seen by any side, ever. Like, without a doubt.
Melbourne have proven so hard to stop when they get these run-ons. I can't think of a team many times this year when Melbourne's playing well that have stopped them. Can you? Like, in the finals, 83-point win, 74-point win. Yeah. Brisbane, to some extent, coped with a lot better, but even that was like a good 5-goal win.
Yeah, it was comfortable for them anyway.
Yeah. When the Demons beat the Bulldogs, that was 5 goals in the regular season. They beat Port pretty comfortably in Adelaide, so when they get going, they are incredible.
It seemed like the energy shifted in that third quarter when Caleb Daniel slung Max Gawn to the ground. It was a strange moment in the game where the Bulldogs were in control of the game. They were 19 points up. Caleb Daniel, the smallest man on the ground, slings Max Gawn into the concrete. I was on Optus that day, and I can tell you that concrete is hard, mate. Alright? Expert analysis right there. That would have hurt, man. And Caleb Daniel sort of stands over him in that Bailey Smith-esque thing. You hate that. It's like an Allen Iverson sort of flex.
Such a dumb time to do it. You just done the wrong thing. Probably should have given away a free kick. Max Gawn could absolutely knock you out blindfolded. I didn't really get much out of that from Caleb Daniel. But again, I'm not criticising him too much. He was fantastic in this game.
But after that, anyway, the surge begun, which we are going to talk about now, because, the best 10 minutes of football I've ever seen. Like I said, Harms busts out of a pack, hits up Bailey Fritsch on the lead. Bailey Fritsch was crazy, like absolutely unreal. His leading was timed to perfection, and when you have mids like Petrarca and that one from Harms in particular, like there's nothing the defense can do about that when you time it that well. And then after that, it just seemed like the D's just dominated Bontempelli, McRae and Liberatore out of the middle. They just elevated to that next level. They got the next clearance. Petrarca puts it on the head of Gawn. Fritsch goes up for the specky. It bounces once and then he picks it up. Like, that recovery, to go up for a specky, come down, and then recover to just walk into an open goal, it was crazy. Petrarca gets another clearance again, spins out of the pack. That was nuts. Like, the ball was just up for contention. Petrarca just goes in there, spins out, and he's off. And sets up Ben Brown, who just takes a good contested mark. That was a massive pop in the atmosphere then. And you could just see, like, the game had changed at that point. Like, it was a clear shift in momentum. It looked like the Dogs, like you said, their heads were dropping at that point because they couldn't do anything. Like, the D's were on fire. Hell was raised. That's their saying.
Yes, good point. Yeah, that's true. In that specific period where I think there was 7 goals in 7 minutes, I don't think the Dogs were playing poorly. It was just that the Demons unleashed this level of ferocity that we've seen at times this year, but none to the level of what we saw in that 7-minute period. And I think that they dropped off after that. When their heads dropped, it was after they got 4 goals down. But during that period, I think even Beveridge said it was just amazing to see what Melbourne did out of the centre.
But like you said, every time Petrarca touched the ball, it was gold. That crumb that he got, I think it was Ben Brown who kicked it into the forward pocket, and he just runs into the pack, reads the ball perfectly, gathers the ball, composed, dribbles it from the pocket, and it went straight through the middle as well. Like, it was inch perfect from Petrarca.
Probably one of the most impressive crumb shots I've ever seen. I love my favorite part was that 1 full second you were going to go with it.
Yeah,
you didn't realise.
Crumb shot. The D's midfield just couldn't be stopped at that point, Jesse. As I said, Viney got it to Petrarca, who got it to Oliver, who got it to Sparrow, and he went trip from 50.
He did.
Bang! Just Tom McDonald holds the man on the line, and it goes over. And there's like, I think that was at the point where there was 30 seconds left in the quarter, and you're like, wow, what a performance this was, this quarter from the D's. And they go again. Clayton Oliver busts out of the middle, just runs into 50 and kicks a goal. Like, I could not believe what I was seeing. When I'm vlogging games at the football, like, you sort of can tell when a goal's going to come.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh shit, that's another moment. That's another moment. That's another moment. Like, it couldn't stop. And being in the Melbourne end, all the fans were just losing their minds because they just knew it was coming home at that point. You can't stop that.
Yeah, you could probably see on my channel the reaction I had to those goals. It was absolutely insane. It was all genuine, like, surprise. I wasn't even hamming it up. That was amazing. And again, that sort of speaks to, like, the fact that the Dogs weren't doing too much wrong. Okay, they lost the centre clearance poorly, but there's no evidence of bad defence in any of those goals. It was just pure, like, genius, or in Petrarca's case, it was just like long roost from 50. And Sparrow and Oliver. So hard to defend.
Given that the Bulldogs are such a good running side, and the Melbourne just made them look like, I don't know, they had no legs or something. Run them off the park, really.
Yeah, it's funny that the Dogs are considered the best midfield team on paper, but Melbourne just, I mean, you've got Petrarca and Oliver who can sort of just win the game off their own boot.
To think that the Dogs were 3 goals up, in control of the game, and then going into 3/4 time, the D's were 24 points up or something like that. Like, unreal. A quarter of football that I'll never forget, to be honest.
Me too.
Then in the 4th quarter, it was time to feast at McDonald's. Tom McDonald had 2. He was probably the least best player on ground. Not to hate on him. I mean, he's a Premiership player now, but some of the Melbourne fans were just getting frustrated with just how slow he was and stuff like that. But I'm not going to hate on him. It's just a point I wanted to make. Fritsch kicked his 5th and 6th of the game as well. Salem as well got in on the act. He just wanted to get that grand final goal, and he did. Ben Brown kicked his 3rd, and it was just party times, red panty night for the D's fans. And there was nothing the Dogs could do about it, and then the siren went, and Melbourne become the 2021 AFL Premiers.
Good job, guys.
We made it, baby. Final siren. So now we have some questions and topics and stuff, which is the whole point of the show, but there's the game. Rackers 2003 said Caden McDonald is going to need some new jocks after that night.
You mean he's going to buy his first pair of jocks? Caden McDonald exposed.
Here's a question for you, Jesse. This is from UCAT. Is this Melbourne side Dynasty material?
Definitely. It's a weird one to rate them because they've won a 17-win season, which is nothing to write home about against the other Premiership teams. But I still think, at their best, they're as good as any side I've seen since maybe Geelong 07-08. In terms of the way they butcher teams. Their ability to just pile on the goals with the velocity that they do is just insane. And their list profile is still pretty strong in terms of Viney, Petrarca and Oliver. Petrarca and Oliver are stupidly young. Like, Petrarca's 25. Oliver's at least 1 year younger. I think he's 1 year younger. That's ridiculous.
Not even in their prime yet.
Yeah, in theory, they'll start to get in their prime in the next couple of years. So Jake Lever's pretty young. Stephen May's probably a few years away from retiring at least.
Late 20s.
Yeah.
Still got plenty in the tank though.
Definitely in his prime. Ben Brown's not that old.
No.
He's only like 28, I reckon. Maybe 29. But still, for a key forward, he's probably got 3 good years left. So, if we're saying Dynasty is like maybe a 3 to 4 year window, maybe 5 years, I genuinely think Melbourne could pinch 2 to 3 flags in that period.
I agree. Who's going to stop him? One of the best sides I've ever seen, for sure. They're just like the best team in the competition. It's not even close. Winning the prelim by 82, the grand final by 74, 73, something like that. And the qualifying final by 33 against like really good football sides, and they just didn't even make it look competitive. Like, they ran away with it. It's not boring because it's just so good. Like, you just got to appreciate the greatness. They won their first 9 of the season, won their last 7 of the season. Crazy season for the D's. I'm just so happy for Dosso and Baki Char and Disco as well, because lots of years of pain, and it's sort of worth it. Well, not worth it, but like it's healed the wounds. Are they the best side of all time? It's hard to say. When you've got such like great dynasties like what Hawthorn had in the mid 2010s, like what Richmond have just had, they're probably almost comparable, but not as good as the 2000 Essendon side. They only lost 1 game for that season. They won the grand final by, I think, like 45, 55 points. Won the qualifying final against North Melbourne by over 100. So, not the best side, but definitely they've set the bar high for this decade coming up for sure.
Depends how you frame it, if you go over a single season or is it over like a period of 3 or 4 years, because we can't judge them over a period of 3 or 4 years. They don't even come close to Hawthorn and Richmond and that. I would argue though that I reckon that in an individual season, in terms of the quality I've seen, I think they're better than Richmond. And that's a huge call. Yeah. But what made Richmond great was the fact that they lifted when it mattered and then did that over a sustained period as well, and may do it again in the future. So, obviously Richmond had the dynasty, but Melbourne has the potential. Yeah,
to be seen. I think they can make a dynasty happen. Who were your best on grounds then?
I think Petrarca were clearly best on ground.
He was the best on ground.
Yeah. It's very easy to say, but we were having this debate throughout the last quarter between Petrarca and Fritsch, and it's not often that a player kicks 6 goals in a grand final and you don't even consider him best on ground. I think Jarman did it in 97. And McLeod won the norm, so actually it has happened before. But I think as good as Fritsch was, and he was incredible and a clear second choice, he was on the end of some other very good work, whereas I felt like Petrarca, in the fact he got 39 touches speaks to this, nearly 900 metres gained. He was the real engineer of the win, and therefore definitely my Norm Smith fellas. None of his, as you said, none of his disposals were just like cheap gets. Like, they were all hard ball gets, and then the disposal of the ball was just so effective, and just cut the Bulldogs apart. I just wanted to give a little shout out to Luke Jackson as well. It's his 2nd year in the league, Perth boy, won the Rising Star this year, and now he's on a premiership, and he was a massive part of that as well. He had some great contribution out of the middle in that 3rd quarter as well. Massive game from him. Bailey Fritsch, VFL player a few years ago, overlooked by heaps of clubs. Just seemed like a bang average player a couple years ago. Now he's kicked 6 goals in the grand final for the winning side. And capping off a very good season as well. He ends the year as the 2nd overall goal scorer because he obviously played more finals, but still an incredible season. Brayshaw hasn't had heaps of the ball this year for the D's. He's been more of a defensive winger, but I think given that it was the grand final, you're meant to take more risks. He had a goal and he was, 25 disposals. Pretty good across the ground. You were big on him? I was very big on him. I'm glad you mentioned him. I really, really noticed Brayshaw in that 3rd quarter. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. There was a couple kicks that he fluffed. So there was one inside 50 when Melbourne had the momentum and he kicked it out of bounds at the full. And then not long after that, Daniel kicked one off the side of his boot. Then Brayshaw did the same thing. But then 10 seconds after that, Brayshaw takes a diving mark and kicks a very crucial goal at a critical point of the game. And that, as much as any other goal, really gave the momentum. It wasn't just that. It was just his presence around the contest, his hard running. I thought Angus Brayshaw was outstanding. Come to Freo, buddy. It's much better over here. I swear to God. Please come. Here's some candy. Come. Let's go Bloke of the Year, Jester Barn. We've had a submission here from Mitchy Buttsworth who says, Bloke of the Year, Max Gawn, captaining the D's to their first flag in 57 years. Also kicked the winning goal after the siren to make them minor premiers as well. He's just, one of the most lovable players. Big, giant. And he's going to be an icon. Looking back in like 30, 40 years, it's going to be Max Gawn, one of the best ruckmen of all time, Premiership captain. What a guy. Well, I'd actually like to nominate Bailey Smith. That was gross. Just a general question here from Liam Chandles. What was your highlight of the year? Should we go one from our clubs and then one generally? Yeah. Derby. I know. I know.
Yeah, no, winning the Derby for the first time since 2015, very good. Made me very happy as a Dockers fan.
For me, there's one clear choice and a pile of shit below, but Josh Kennedy kicking the winner against Richmond, that was one of the best games I've ever been to.
Seemed like a big point in your season at the time. Like, given that Richmond were like the premiers and you beat them at home, yeah.
That game is cursed because both West Coast and Richmond turned to absolute shit after that.
That was the peak of the season, wasn't it? Nice, I like it. Just in general, my highlight was going to the grand final. First ever grand final I've been to. Probably the only ever grand final that'll be in Perth. And seeing the D's win was very good.
I hate to use another Demons example here because we've been giving them a lot of love, and it's easy as well. But I think the narrative of them beating Geelong in the final round, I think that was probably my favourite. Other than the grand final, I'm saying something different. I'll say the prelim when they, the last round of the year when Gorn won.
Yeah, we have been D's nuts all year. Though.
You are a closet Demons fan.
I am.
I'm just supportive.
Yeah, true. But all season, I have been D's nuts, and I'm just happy that they've actually won the flag. We had our fingers on the pulse, Jesse. We sensed that the D's were gonna win the flag, and they did.
Yeah, I did actually do a video some 10 weeks or so ago called "How Melbourne Became the Best Team in the AFL." And while some people were supportive, some people were like, "You're making this way too early." And over the last 4 weeks, it started to get back into the highest views cycle. And it's just nice that I was a little bit vindicated for that. And it's truly what I believed. I believe Melbourne were the best team this year. I'm not the only person who thought that. And it's good to see the best team win.
And that's going to wrap it up for season 1 of the Drew Footy Show. 29 episodes consecutively for 6 months, just about, maybe even more. We've pulled through, Jesse. Good consistency. Thanks to everyone who has watched all season long. I appreciate everyone who's watched every episode, and tune in next week for the Drew Cricket Show. Just kidding. I do another weekly show which no one watches, and it's called Drewzy United, which comes out every week. Premier League rap, similar to the Drew Footy Show, where I just do it by myself.
Cristiano Ronaldo is back in the country, and we're going to win the Premier League.
And we lost to Aston Villa.
Premier League rap.
Yeah. Thank you for helping me with the Drew Footy Show, mate. Jesse has also been smashing this all season.
What's next on the script?
I need to have a nap. Yeah, as you can tell, we talk a lot of shit and waffle a lot. So, thanks for watching. I'm going to end it there. Hope you enjoyed the series, and we'll see you next year for the Drew Footy Show. Season 2, it'll be bigger and better than ever, I'm sure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We won't see you next week.
Well, we're still gonna make videos.
Yeah, we're still gonna make videos.
We're not going anywhere.
We suck at saying goodbye. Bye!
I have attachment issues. Please stay.